Throughout the entire Souls franchise, there's always been some questionable bonfire placements, and I'd argue there's more in Dark Souls 3 than Dark Souls 1 and 2 combined. Now, as we know, bonfires act as checkpoints, allowing the player to start in a zone and progress through that area, and if they fail, they have to restart back at that initial bonfire. Now, death in Dark Souls 1 and 2 to me felt like this huge factor lingering over me as I progressed, and that played into how I traversed through certain areas. I knew if I died, I'd have to replay the entire area again. Bonfires were special, a safe haven. Now these days I feel almost spoiled with bonfires. This is the first time in a Dark Souls game where a bonfire spawns in a boss arena after we've defeated them. This is a trait picked up from Bloodborne, but lamps in Bloodborne are different from bonfires, albeit very slightly. We can only use lanterns to return to the Hunter's Dream and not teleport to various areas straight from them, but I can't think of any lamps in Bloodborne that were just downright pointless. Now, Dark Souls 2 came under heavy flack, and myself, even though I love the game, can agree on this criticism. And that was that the world of Dranleic felt like it was created in separate areas of From Software's studio and then stuck together at a later date, giving not much thought into consistency and realism. Now, this is perfectly fine for a studio of that size, and I only really noticed it when doing a no bonfire run, and I was made to look behind me. We're so focused on moving forward, we never stop to look back. Now, everyone can poke fun at the tower in Myth of the Baneful Queen's boss room, leading to a volcano-esque castle of iron in the sky, but if we were to be really nitpicky, it goes further than that. As you enter some areas of the game, you can see cracks in the world, almost indicating this is the beginning of the area that's just been stuck on. But one of the greatest things a video game can achieve is giving you that sense of immersion and not breaking it through the entire experience. And this is no different for the Souls games. Now, some bonfires in Dark Souls, although they appear to be questionable due to them being so close in proximity, actually hold some merit. For example, the bonfire at the start of the Artorias of the Abyss DLC. After we beat the Sanctuary Guardian, there's another bonfire immediately after that boss room. Now, sure, they are close, but for gameplay reasons, this initial bonfire has a purpose. It's easier for the player to continue trying to kill that area's boss, and starting from here than having to spawn at the Darkroot Garden and make their way down to the portal. You see, that makes sense. Here's 5 bonfires in no particular order in Dark Souls 3 that are useless, pointless, and make no sense. Ithriel of the Boreal Valley, despite what anyone says, is a fairly challenging zone. We're met with one of the hardest hitting, and I'll add one of the toughest enemies in the game along the bridge. And the run from the initial bonfire to the Church of Yoshigé is the bane of all no-hit and soul level 1 runs. After we arrive at the church, we venture down through the fairly easy dark cellar, and we move onto the giant lake. And as we come to the fork in the road, if we were to choose the right path, we are met with another bonfire. I guess we've progressed enough to garner a checkpoint. As we make our way through the smallish room with 6 enemies and a phantom to fight, we are met with another bonfire. Now, I feel as though one of these needs to go. In my opinion, the challenge that we encounter in that small room does not garner the need for a bonfire. And I'll add to that, the Dark Cellar is not a hard enough challenge to garner that checkpoint either. If we were to make our way left from the fork in the road, we would arrive in the room with the 3 Silver Knights. Now, you could argue that this bonfire is really for that room, but again, I'll argue that the cellar doesn't pose enough of a threat to be detrimental to your progression, therefore you could get through that place and easily move there without the need of a second bonfire. So in my opinion, the Distant Manor bonfire is pointless. Now, this next one falls into what I mentioned earlier about being spoiled with bonfires making life just a little bit easier on us. As we extinguish the 3 flames to open the door to the Abyss Watchers, in Farron Keep we have the Keep Ruins bonfire, which is located directly in front of the main door leading to the boss. After we get through the Corvians, we are met with 2 Dark Wraiths that fight the other Gurus in that area. Take a right and we're met with the Farron Keep perimeter bonfire, which is used as a quicker way to get to the boss. Now again, you could argue that this bonfire is here to connect Farron Keep and the Crucifixion Woods via the shortcut, but as we leave the shortcut, the Halfway Fortress and the Crucifixion Woods bonfire are directly accessible to us with no real effort. When looking at bonfires like these, we normally judge it on the difficulty of the run back to the boss room if we fail, so let's watch the run. This is the run from the Keep Ruins. and this is the run from the perimeter bonfire. With the way the little area is designed outside the Abyss Watchers, if you were to take the right path you can pretty much bypass the majority of enemies, and because the Dark Race and the Guru fight each other, they most likely won't be interested in you anyway. The only thing this bonfire's purpose serves is the saviour of time, much like a lot of these which are on the list, and in my eyes, the Fire and Keep perimeter bonfire is pointless. This next one to me is just straight confusing, not only from a gameplay perspective but as a story one too. If anyone in the comments has any idea why this is a thing, please let me know. So as we are coming towards the end of the game, after placing all the lords back on their thrones, we kneel at the bonfire and are teleported to the Kiln of the First Flame, to a room that resembles Firelink. Here, there's a bonfire. We venture on up the stairs and we touch, well, I'm going to call this a fake bonfire. It may look like one, but it doesn't act like one. When we arrive, we are met with, yes, another bonfire. First, let's ask some questions. Why do we need to be teleported again when we can actually see the Kiln from here? Why are these lands not connected? And secondly, I don't really understand why this bonfire exists. I'll bet 99% of the players will never actively visit the Flameless Shrine ever again. This is the third Firelink shrine we've seen in the game. It's called the Flameless Shrine, so why is there a bonfire? To me, this feels like these bonfires have more significance to the lore rather than gameplay. In a perfect world, I would have connected these two lands or made it so the Kiln is not directly visible, but with that said, why couldn't this bonfire just act as a normal one after we've proceeded to the First Flame? Much like the main bonfire in Firelink, we're given the option to kneel, after that it reverts back to its original state. So in my opinion, the Flameless Shrine bonfire is pointless. Do you guys remember that overwhelming feeling of joy when you encountered a bonfire after going through a difficult stage? How a bonfire would be like finding that precious needle in a haystack on your first playthrough? This next one needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyway. In all my years of Dark Souls, I've never seen something quite as ridiculous as this. Remember earlier we mentioned how Dark Souls 2 felt like the different areas in the world were made separately then stuck together? Well, the Dragon Slayer Armourer and the Grand Archives bonfire has solidified this conspiracy of mine that Dark Souls 3 went under the same treatment. I can't even think of a valid reason for this, nothing comes to mind. You can see the opposite bonfire from whichever one you stand at. Did we really need to save 10 seconds of our time? Or was this just completely overlooked? Part of me thinks two things. One, that originally the Dragon Slayer armor was supposed to be in a completely different location, and this wasn't supposed to be a boss room at all. And two, if this was supposed to be a boss room, with the new bonfire spawning at the boss room mechanic, it was just simply overlooked. If that's not the case, then this could be the biggest oversight From has ever done. So, you know what, I think both of these are pointless. But for the sake of this video, I'll pick one at random and say, in my opinion, the Grand Archive bonfire is pointless. Now lastly, I do believe this might be the bonfire that most people miss. After we defeat Vort and get carried to the foot of the high wall, we are met with another bonfire. Fantastic, you would have thought. Like we mentioned earlier, areas in the game that need to be traversed by either a portal, running a significant distance, or just by a cutscene all merit their own bonfire in a particular way. As we head down the stairs and move through the gate, we are met with, yep, another bonfire. Now both these bonfires render each other utterly useless. They almost cancel each other out. If you were to die before the gate and hadn't lit the foot of the high wall bonfire, we'd be at Vort, 10 seconds away. Again, almost like no thought had been put into the placement of bonfires and they simply threw a dart at a map of Lothric and said sure, that'll do. But with that said, there's areas in the game that seem to cater around bonfire placement, and they're some of the best areas in the game. Bonfires like Cleansing Chapel and the Ithral Dungeon bonfire take us back to that intertwined feeling we had in Dark Souls 1, with various paths all coming around and bringing us back to our safe haven, our bright light at the end of the tunnel, our bonfires. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, feel free to hit that subscribe button, On another note, a few weeks back we announced our web series Hope had a release date. Well, I discussed it further with my team and I thought it would be for the best. Instead of working on a time constraint, to have a more it's done when it's done mindset. With these lovely people working for free, it's best we take our time with it so it can be as awesome as we can possibly make it. With that said, take care everyone, be good to one another, and have a great day.